Sorry. Okay, so for those for the recording purposes, those who missed what I said, yes, I'm into McDonald's right now, MCD. Um, yes, I may give this. I'm probably gonna give this one a little bit more leeway for the compounding challenge. Ah, frick, I hate using that word. Plan. And then we just talked about what's coming up tomorrow. We have jobless claims. I think there's going to be reports on something EIA, the gasoline, from what I said earlier this week. Um, Bullish on energy, bullish on XLE. And I'm pretty sure I'm not the only person. If you look, Twitter, Sal had mentioned that he was going to look up some tickets for y'all as well too. I think VLO is one of them. But yeah, bullish on um, energy. There's definitely a sector rotation. You can certainly see it. Uh, Financials is currently down, but you can kind of see the come up on the larger time frames. You can see it in energy, of course. You can see it in healthcare. If you look at the sector rotation map, I believe these are going to be familiar pairs that as the market goes down, these go up. I wonder, actually, I haven't looked at it in a minute, but was XLP? Yeah, XLP, I know it's pulling back, right, on the smaller time frames, but when you focus on, I don't know why the internet's been moving slow lately. Give me a second, y'all. There we go. I mean, essentially what we're seeing, because I had drawn the fibs on its way up, it basically hit OTE entry, for a pullback. So somebody probably entered, probably a good place to enter for puts there. But when you look at the larger time frames, you see we're at we're in the middle of the range, but we're coming from the lows. Um, so yeah, definitely still overall bullish on XLP. Obviously, there has to be some corrective activity, just like what you saw over here, right? You get the run up, you get the what is it? No, I don't think that's quite a turtle soup, but you get the reversal, right? We're still making higher lows on the daily, and then the run up, and now the pullback. So what we're looking for is to see, um,
Mr. Mr. Tensho, what's corrective activity?
you already know what corrective activity is. Everybody else, if you really don't know what corrective activity, you really don't know what corrective activity is, I got you. Um, yeah, okay, good. All right. I was gonna say, because all jokes aside, if you really don't know what it is, please ask, right? I have no problem. Corrective activity is just basically correcting, like if you have a large run up, corrective activity is basically correcting that run up. Sometimes it could be a correction of 10%, sometimes it could be 20, sometimes it could just be a small correction. There's just basically if you're studying ICT, moving from liquidity to liquidity. If you're studying strat TTOs, right? TTOs are essentially corrective activity. You have the run up, and then you have the pullback, if it's the other way, you have the dip, and then it gets bought up, like what you're seeing over here, right? You get the dip, right? Actually, let me just maximize it. It's just an easy thing to show for the beginners. Boom. So, right. So you have this high right here, right? You get the pullback from that, and then price corrects, runs up TTO because we took out this high with this high over here. So there's your corrective activity. And also simultaneously, because you created that new high, you now have a new broadened formation on that time frame, which helps, with that people take profit. Then that's where you see the pullback, and then down. Now, also from so from an ICT standpoint, you can see basically like it runs up, and so now it's just basically about finding potentially where this may reverse, right? Now that the fair value gap has been covered and everything like that. I'm not really going to break XLP down, but we can look at other tickets and focus on that. Now, Lotto hunting is simply if there's any tickets that you want me to look at, cool. There's a couple tickers that popped up on my scans. We can certainly take a look at them together. But yeah, if you have anything, go ahead and put it in the chat. We can certainly look at it. And the reason why I'm doing a lotto on Wednesday, it's like Wednesday, once it closes, you kind of get to see how the week is shaping up. You know, we're over the halfway mark. We have 2 days. So if you end up getting into something on Thursday, and then you can just go ahead and, swing it right into the Friday, especially if that trade goes your way. So first, before I put this one out there, I want to take a look at. So it did. Okay. Because at the time that I looked at it, it was still red. But it is currently green now. So the reason why I'm looking at Bitcoin is a couple different reasons. Because Riot popped up on my scans, and I wanted to look at what Bitcoin's doing before I take a look at Riot and like really look at it. But obviously Bitcoin, larger time frames, higher time frames is bullish, right? Essentially what it looks like I'm seeing so far is that we've taken out highs and essentially corrective activity so far, right? Can't really count this as a shooter just yet. We'll have to see how that week ends up. But yeah, essentially, so it's really going to turn. It's really for me. It's going to really come down to how Bitcoin kind of shapes up. But the reason why is when you look at, well, yeah, see, it came all the way down and it kind of took out that low, but it could not take out this one. So we're still technically from this pivot here, we're still making higher lows. It essentially bounced right back up so far. We'll see how tomorrow goes because obviously that's a lot to eat through. But since even when you look at it from even back here, since that larger time, I mean, since that pivot over there, it's still been making higher lows. So, and I know people have been talking about like just buy the dip, buy the dip, buy the dip. And I got to keep it a stack. I have not been following the news as far as what specifically is making Bitcoin run. I know that there's some countries that have joined BRICS. And honestly, that it's a logical conclusion. If there's countries that are getting rid of the dollar, it would make sense that currency like, cryptocurrency would probably run off of that. Because a lot of those countries, do use Bitcoin as a method of payment. So it would make total sense. Now, with that being said, and again, seriously, don't be shy. If there's a ticker that you want to look at, that you're looking at for the rest of the week, go ahead and put it in the chat. That is completely okay. I have no idea why my internet's just moving so slow all of a sudden. It's really bugging the fuck out of me. Excuse my language, chat. All right. So what I'm seeing essentially is really, I'm gonna just keep it a sec, it's really just about the daily, right? I'm seeing the drop down. We haven't taken out the lows on the 3 day, the 4 day, the week or whatever, right? And what's really caught my attention so far is what we're seeing over here, how it's coming back above the open of the week over here. And I think just coming up into that territory of staying open, of climbing higher than the open on the week over here. So what I'm really looking for as far as the week is concerned, I would like to see this week close above the close of the previous week, right? If it does that, then that would, kind of help solidify, that we probably going to continue with the bearish move back to the upside and just really solidify that all that happened on the larger time frames or smaller time frames was really just some corrective activity. Now, focusing in on the daily, let me see the chat real quick. Netflix and Uber, cool, got you. Focusing in on the daily for Riot, right? So where do we drop back down into? We drop back right down into this bullish order block right here. right? So ended up being a two down bull candle from a strat perspective, right? So what does that set us up for? That sets us up for a 1 to 2 rev strat back to the upside. Now it should be noted that we stayed below this low, right? But it just could be profit taken after the run up. So we'll see how tomorrow plays out. I think Riot, when I last looked at it, it might have actually been above that level in the after hours. Let me see. Hold up 1 second, y'all. Give me a second. Give me a second. No, it dropped back down. It's down 1502. But it was at the time, I think it was like 1505, 1506 at the time that I looked at it. So we'll see how that goes. But came back into the fair value gap, came back into the order block. Um, and I wonder, yeah, see, so it dipped right below the 0.5 fib, the mean or equilibrium of the order block, and then immediately kind of like use that as the taking off point, and really just ate right back up through the fair value gap, and then obviously is sitting above it right now. So um, obviously not a clear cut, like, yes, for sure, A plus setup, but I do like the way it is set, especially if we go 2-2 up tomorrow. I think this could eventually set up into a decent swing, even into the next couple of weeks, where you could look at something, like a target of possibly 17 or so, right before it hits the fair value gap up there, as well too. So uh, definitely, something to pay attention to. I would say, keep the strike price tight if it does trigger to the upside, right? So your entry, if it triggers to the upside, would be 1523. I'd probably say shoot for something halfway between the target and the entry, which would be 16. I would say either go for the 15.5 if you want to keep it really tight and close to the strike price, which would be 15.5, right? 15.5. That's asking $114, so not too bad. But if you're gonna go, oh no, I'm sorry, that was looking at January 12th. My apologies. The 15.5 for this week, which has about 5,000 volume. Actually, it looks like the market likes the 16 better for this week. That has 8,000, a little bit over 8,000 on the volume, over 8,000 on the open interest as well too. And that one's very cheap, right? 30 bucks. So you can definitely grab multiple contracts with that. If it hits, cool. And then, take your runners, secure your bag, leave your runners and call it a day, right? That's the way I look at it. But yeah, so far, again, couldn't take out the lows over here. Just immediately pushed up. And I know, what is it? There's like an ETF pending as well too. So, what we could be seeing over here is just really that pullback, that corrective activity, in order to push up for the next leg higher. All right. Um, if you are looking to swing it, I would still be looking at the 16 call. That one's asking 98 into next week. And yeah, let it ride out. Let me just take a look at the 4 hour. Let me see. Yeah, see, the 4 hour ended up being an actionable signal. So yeah, and that 4 hour triggers to the upside. Um, same as the daily entry as well
Hey,
too.
Tensho.
Yes.
Hey, after you finish these, I want you to pull up AVGO for swing and E EOG and COP.
All right. You might have to remind me of the other two, but yeah, that's fine. I mean, I'm still in AVGO anyway. I still got runners for next week, and then um, admittedly, I used some of the profits from the 1,050 put to grab the 1,000s as a lotto. So if that shit drops tomorrow, I might be doing backflips and shit at work. Um, Let me see. Robinhood 4 hour inside bar. FTC to the downside. So I'm thinking puts if it triggers with the target at the gap. Okay, we can certainly take a look at that. Um,
Mr. Tensho, your old ass can do backflips.
my old ass can do black backflips. Hell yeah, I can. Um, you so
Shatira told me she can.
oh yeah, she can.
Yeah, and make stuff on French toast with ice cream on the top, the old fashioned vanilla.
Ice cream on the top. That's actually funny because I actually had not stuffed, but I had French toast from IHOP
Yeah,
last night
and
as I
tell them,
was
and
watching ICT.
you gotta let them know they gotta sprinkle the raspberries and the blueberries on top too.
Oh
Just
Lord,
make things just right.
oh Lord have mercy. You know, another thing I wanted to point out on the 4 hour, right? If you draw the see, like the point 0.5 fib, the equilibrium is like that's something that ICT talks about a lot of like in a lot of his concepts too. And it makes sense, right? So if you just look at the inside candle, look at where it wicked. I mean, that's beautiful. Um, so yeah, there's definitely potential there, right? So just throwing that out there for Riot. Now, if you look at, I think Mara kind of ended. Actually, the majority of them, if you look at them on the daily, I think a lot of them ended bullish if I'm not mistaken. Why is this moving so damn slow? Yeah, see, Mara did its thing, bouncing off, right? Bouncing off the fair value gap. What's another one that y'all look at? Was it Coin? I think Coin had a little bit of exhaustion at the top, though, like maybe some profit taken. Yeah, see, a little bit of exhaustion at the top, but still, right? Still bouncing off, either an order block or, bouncing off of fair value gaps. So we'll see how tomorrow goes, but yeah, I would probably say definitely keep that shit on your radar. I think MSTR is the only one that I saw that was still red for the day. So tomorrow morning, if you see Bitcoins, kind of running or at least green, hey, something brewing. Okay, what was the AVGL, right? So AVGO, honestly, like I make jokes about it, but it's factual. Like, we definitely caught this and we had the opportunity to catch this both ways.
Yes, yes, indeed, and is truly the star of the Ferrari watch list, truly. And why I put this motherfucker on here because I don't trade SPX. You know what I'm saying? Nothing wrong against SPX traders or nothing, but fuck them. I'm gonna say it plain and simple. I rather AVGO is my SPX, literally. And you really make, I'm gonna say SPX type of money when you can build your account to where you can afford 5 to 10 of these contracts. Trust me. You get 30, 40%, and hey, it's fucking Santa Claus comes back around for Christmas, I guarantee it.
Right. Keeping it a stack, the only drawback is the data burn. And then also sometimes the spreads are pretty nasty, but yeah, if you get the direction right on this shit, it's really nice. Do not, I'm gonna say this though, do not use like money you need, like really need, like, oh, this is my bill money, this is my mortgage money, this is my whatever money to pay for this. Like, no, do not. Because if you guess wrong, or if you enter, not guess, sorry, if you enter wrong in the wrong direction, you could get burned up very quickly. All right. I have to say that. I'm not trying to scare you off of it, but I have to say that, right? So you understand the risk. All right. It's like playing with the wild animal, out in the savannah. Somebody gonna warn you. You don't just go out there into the savannah, go start petting lions. You feel me? It's a lion. So you gotta treat it right and make sure that shit don't come back and bite you. You know what I'm saying? But definitely had the opportunity to get this shit both ways, right? See the flip, the reversal up here, right? Order block, and then it just took off. This was down at like 926. I think we really alerted this up at like 950. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
and look
that's
at
when it took off.
mind you, I swung this shit and the shit went 300%. I only seen 1 or 2 people that actually kept the swing. You know what I'm saying? The dude Steve, I think that's one of them. And he and I we talked or whatever. But man, don't sleep on them AVGOs, and the contract for that was just $3, $4. That's it.
Right.
Which is normally, in ease is $7, $8.
Right. So couple things I want to show, right? Because it's clearly bearish, but then you do want to zoom in on the smaller time frames. I had mentioned this in the chat, right? So this level of 1058.60 struggled to break and hold below it, right? Now, could that just be exhausted itself on the ATR? Yes. But you also have to pay attention to what happened over here as well, too, right? And I'm pretty sure if we draw, let me see, am I right? Nope, not even close. I was like, that might even be the 50%. But um, clearly, right, what was support over here is acting still as support over there. So what I'm really hoping for tomorrow is that maybe we open up a little bit. Um, as long as I would say that we don't clear and hold above this high, we probably should be in good shape, right? Especially if we just keep bouncing off of that, or we bounce off the opening of the fair value gap, right? I really had an allowance for about 1070. And if we bounce from there, that'll probably be a good add point. And we're probably going to continue the move down to the next target at 1024. Now, where could you find some resistance points? The halfway point of the fair value gap on the daily, but then also you have a order block and a fair value gap here. So if you draw out the 50% on the order block, that's 1032. So you might catch a little resistance there. I'm not an AVGO level yet, but soon. Uh, yeah. I mean, it's just you got to be careful with the high volatility tickers, right? The AVGO, I mean, honestly, no different than playing Tesla, no different than playing Nvidia. Obviously, this has a higher ATR, but it's still all three of those Meta are all Netflix even are all high volatility stocks. They move. The problem is if you're in the wrong direction of that trade and they move against you, your contract can get killed rather quickly, especially if you're in weeklies with that theta burn. It can get killed very quickly, actually. As a matter of fact, I'm pretty
Man,
sure
fuck that shit.
we
Man, look here. Y'all know this type of shit I trade. I don't like playing them slow movers. I like the bangers. The motherfuckers that make your ass go bang. You know what I'm saying? To be a great trader, you have to become comfortable in uncomfortable situations. And this is where reading them personal development books come into place at. Like reading books like The Alchemist, Machiavelli, and things of this nature. Don't be afraid of these tickers. And don't be afraid to shoot your shot at it. Now, if you have a small account, do not fuck around with it. You know what I'm saying? But don't ever become pussy to no ticker. Excuse my language, but that's the only way I can talk. You know what I'm saying? Or to convey my message. You know what I'm saying? Simply study price action. And any ticker you come across, you can trade it. Like I say, once again, I don't like trading them little slow motherfuckers at all because they aggravate the shit out of me. You know what I'm saying? This one here today, was moving kind of slow and aggravating me. This was like what 1081 or something like that, where it was having problems at, and I was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna get out. But then again, I was like, man, fuck that. This is a swing. I'm dropping my nuts. You know what I'm saying? Mind you, I'm already up in profit. So in essence, I'm being greedy. You know what
I
I'm saying? I
imagine.
preach about my bad. Go ahead.
No, I was saying if you were talking about 1081, this is probably the candle you're referring to, right? The
Mm-hmm.
drop and then the run up. Probably people probably got shook out here at this
Yeah.
point.
And then if you notice, last 10 minutes yesterday, them liquidity providers turned on them algos and that bitch started running up. So I damn near got out that motherfucker. But I'm like, you know what? Again, fuck that. This a swing. Because if that bitch gonna get bought up, it's gonna get bought up.
Yeah.
And one of my biggest worries last night was that bitch gonna get bought up. Because remember the way Nvidia was doing this? When we was trying to short it, like when Nvidia was on this hell of a run, you know what I'm saying? And I'm gonna say after it ran, and we was trying to short it. And Nvidia, the way Nvidia used to get bought up, and it would have the perfect, I'm talking about just the perfect setup, hold it relative downside and everything. And that bitch would get bought up. That's the same way this motherfucker do it. Overnight though. That bitch will drop $20 and it be up $30 in the morning. Now, I ain't trying to say this shit to scare y'all, but you gotta have that high risk, high reward mentality.
Right. The price
Yeah.
action is price action. Let me just say that. So like any ticker can be traded. It's just like I said, you just need to understand the nature of the beast that it is that you're trading, right? So um price action will, I mean, on a small ticker, it's going to be the same sign, same scenario. It's just speed. That's all. But looking at AVGO, this is where you probably got the inkling. You could have gotten the inkling to short, right? Where we're seeing that resistance and we're seeing that exhaustion right here, and then boom, look at what happens, right? We take out the lows, break a structure to the downside, and then obviously you're going to have corrective activity, aka a bearish order block, and then we gap down all the way down to where we ended up at. Honestly, like I had zero intentions until we hit 1062 first target. That's where I took out, that's where I talked about taking out a contract and leaving runners. Throughout the day, I closed out the majority of the 1050, and then I was like, you know what? I'll wait till we get a little bit of a pullback, or in this case, corrective activity. Then I'll go ahead and grab the 1,000 puts as a lotto, because I'm also in the 1,000 puts for next week as well too. So I was just like, let me take some of the profits of, and
And
actually it
that's
only
actually
does, huh?
that's actually a good bet. Seriously, that 1,000 for next week. Because
Yeah,
one
that
thing
one's
about this
already
here,
up 93%. So like I
one
was,
thing about
yeah,
this here, and not to cut you off, but Fridays got the ability to move $30, $40.
yeah,
I'm not telling y'all that it is. So don't get that shit in your head. Or don't go in, oh, say I said this. No, you're damn lie. Say I said got the ability to move it.
right. So now, because I had mentioned that you can pretty much play this both ways, right? So now is the time where you want to start looking at where could we potentially bounce. All right. Couple spots. First off, draw, right? So
Hey, call me crazy,
what's
but
up?
that shit could drop to like 9. Hold up,
It could, but you also want, I want to show them like where are some areas where they could potentially find
mm-hmm.
short-term bounces, right? Because like I said, I agree with Phil the Keys. Right now, I feel probably even going into next week, again, not confirmed, but I feel like we're in short the pop territory. So if we pop, there's gonna be places where you can have potential to add, right? Now, um, on this whole thing right here, right? This large candle, draw your fibs. So about 1050, 1052, if we bounce off of that, you'll probably have an ad, right? So like for example, if it goes something like this, bum, 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 right? Right. So then your ad is going to be there, right? So you add on that on the way back down, right? Another place where you can find potentially some resistance will be what used to be resistance on one side is now potentially support on the other. So 999.87, right? This is the honestly, this is why I got into the 1,000 puts for next week. Because if and obviously it's a big if, but if we get a lot more institutional sponsorship, plus we get the bulls taking their profits, adding to the sell pressure, yeah, we could drop all the way down to 999 87, right? So that's definitely a potential for that to happen. So just be aware of that, of where it could potentially drop to. On the when you pointed out on the daily, there's some other. Actually, I'm pretty sure. Hold up. If we take, let me clear all this shit out. Right. So if we take from this swing to there, that's also another spot, right? 1027, that is the equilibrium between the swing low and the swing high up here, right? So that's another spot. Hence the reason why we keep talking about like 1024 around that area. And like a lot of people are saying, like that's where they're going to take profit because you also have your equilibrium right here. And also on the daily, this is where you have the beginning of a fair value gap. So that's a potential, again, not a reversal. I'm not saying reversal just yet, but that's the potential for a pop and then a retrace back to the downside. Or, I mean, if we turn out to be super bullish, then yeah, I think this thing does have a price target to 1200, so it could just be that, right? Um, if we get lower than that 1027, there's again 959 and then also right there as well too the 999. So if we get below the 1027, those are some spots, and then obviously you have the fair value gap itself, right? It might get there about halfway to the fair value gap and then bounce out and keep it moving. So just throwing those ideas out there. Most of you are probably already inputs. If tomorrow you get an opportunity where it runs up a little bit, right? Look for, signs of exhaustion, look for that reversal, and then, um, you know, jump in, right? I would probably say get into something for next week. Probably would not recommend, unless you get something closer to the strike, I would probably say go something for this week. But if you're doing like 1,000 or less, I would probably say get next week. Remember, I did the 1,000 purely as a lotto, just keeping it a stack purely as a lotto, and it cost me half of one of the contracts that I took profit off of. So I'm good if it goes to zero.
1030, 1030 is coming for sure.
I honestly think tomorrow we can probably get there, or if we really have a really serious drop, I think we could hit 1024 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or very close to it, or possibly touch it, and then like some profit taking will happen at that point, and then we'll probably bounce a little bit off of it. But yeah, I mean, I could see it. I could, because I know like once we got up to this here, I know the shorts were stacking the orders. Just it was just a matter of time, yo. Like this shit was begging to be shorted at this point. All right. So that's AVGO. Again, if you want to do the 1,000 put, I say next week. I don't think it's not too expensive, right? Let me see. Hold on. AVGO. Because I was just looking at a percentage. I don't even know how much the contract is up to right now, to be honest with you. I really just deal in percentages. Um, well, 280 ain't bad. 280 is not bad. And then volumes 568, open interest 582. So, and honestly, that is the most um, comparable to the other contracts that I'm looking at on the put side for January 12th. So clearly, markets saying like, hey, price is coming down there, or feel like not saying they feel like price is coming down there. So yeah, if you can spare 280, and it's not half of your port or more than 30% of your port, yeah, take it. Okay. What else we got? You said, what did you say? EOG? All right, let's zoom out on EOG. Yeah, I did say bullish on energy, right? I'm not just saying that because of CVX, right? Sector rotation. If you don't know what that is, you should really go look that up. But each quarter, throughout the year, there is a sector rotation. Um, this is why we tell you what up, Kay? This is why we tell you to chart out your sectors, because then you can kind of see, not kind of, you will see where the money is flowing, right? And you'll notice that as certain sectors are down, and excuse my language, getting their ass kicked, other sectors are running up, right? So like while energy and I think XLU probably got his ass kicked too. Yeah, well, dipped a little bit, but not quite an ass kicking. The biggest one that sticks out of my mind was XLV. Like throughout the year, that shit was getting its ass murdered. I think PFE hit like 52-week lows. Like Jesus Christ. Um, but as everything else was running up, tech was running up. Like look over here, look over there, the pullback over there, pullback over here as well too. It looks worse on the smaller time frames, but yeah, they were obviously heading down, and financials was another one as well too. While XLC was heading up, while XLK was heading up, um, those were heading down. So now you're seeing that rotation, back into those sectors. Why is my internet moving so slow? I'll close out some of these. Maybe that'll help. Because I'm not really running a lot. Let me close that out. Maybe it's my work shit. Here we go. Bro, come on. There we go. Okay. So EOG, what are we seeing? Um, All right, so obviously, from the quarter, we'll start on the quarter down. We started out inside, but the biggest thing that not biggest, but one of the things that I noticed right off the bat is that even going back from here, we still been making higher lows, right? Still been making higher lows here, equal highs there. So we still got to push through that. On the monthly, right? We had our pullback, right? So now so far, the month just started, obviously, but we have a potential to go 2-2, reversal to the upside. This, from a strat perspective, is a PMG setup to the upside as well, too. So target one, target two, target three. Not really going to count those two because obviously this one's higher than those two. So you have 131.61, 136.79. Hybrid time frame, the 2 week. I'm not going to go over every hybrid time frame, but 2 week. Notice how on the 2 week, right, the lows are kind of clustering around the same area. So obviously finding a level of support. And on the 2 week candle, let me maximize that so you can see, right? Clustering, all the lows kind of clustering around, but we are still making lower lows. So what do we have? Broad information, right? You can draw broad information on any time frame. It doesn't matter, right? So 2 week, there's your broad information right there. And what are we looking for? We're looking for, oh, it actually already did go 2 up. So we're 2-2 continuation to the upside. So next thing would be to take the month up, which is at 125.63, and then the next target 125.97. You may catch a little bit of profit taking around that area. But again, we're coming from the low, so I would say we still have definitely some an opportunity to continue pushing to the upside. Looking at the weekly, yeah, we took the week up as well too. And actually, yeah, the targets are pretty much the same. Yeah, I mean, I'm not really gonna mark that target out because I mean it's pretty close. So yeah, targets are pretty much the same. 125.97, 129.53. So depending on Sal, how are you trying to play this as a swing, like for time, or were you looking to do something on the weekly?
Yeah, I got a little swing for 119. I got 30 contracts and some 126.7s. It actually went up today quite a bit, and man, I ended up fucking dozing off on that shit. I dozed off on that VLO. So I left like quite a bit of money on the table. I ain't lying. But, man, after lunch, man, that shit just sometimes that shit be boring as fuck, and I just go to sleep in that shit. I ain't,
Yeah, too much of that stuff, French toast. All right. So what we have is, looking at the 2 day bearish order block, right? It's eaten through that. Actually, it did. It did eat through that. And that would be considered a bullish break of structure. But it pulled back in. So we'll see what happens if price is going to continue pushing up above that. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see this taking out the month for sure. And yeah, you could definitely use this as a swing for sure. Absolutely. And yeah,
you
you
know,
got a lot.
that's actually a top holding in XLE too.
Yeah, I believe so. It is. Yeah, I mean, it went three today, so you probably makes sense that we obviously have some pullback. Um, Same place that we exhausted last time. So after taking that out, so I mean, if there is a little bit of a pullback, then what I would say is that's perfect opportunity. You can grab, maybe it turns into a holy grail, and then you can go 3-1-2 up to the upside. And yeah, you definitely got some room to run. Um, I don't really know how this one, well, the ATR is 2.58. So you could probably look at the,
It moved faster. It moved faster than that goddamn Exxon.
yeah, I don't know what's up with ExxonMobil. Like, I'm not really, I don't know why. I know it's at the top, but I'm not like out of all the tickers in XLE, it's not really one of my favorites, to be honest with you. Um, oh shit, these are weird ones. Yeah, so you said the 129.7?
One. Let me see. 126.7.
Oh, so you okay, so you grab the 185s then. I mean you could do
I
that.
got some. I also got some CVX. Um. Nah, let me leave that alone.
21
Never mind.
tons, baby.
Never
All
mind.
right. So yeah, if
But
you
I
guys
got
wanted to
hold up.
swing this,
I got COP 125 for 216.
got it. What's the expiration for the EOG though?
EOG. It's just 119 because I ain't.
Okay, so you're on the same path as me. Yeah,
Yeah.
so you can grab the 126's 185, but also your next target is 129.53, so you could probably even grab the 129.7. Yeah, so open interest is decent. A volume will probably pick up as well too, and the spread is not too bad. It's only a difference of $10. So you can probably grab those, they're cheaper, or if you want to get closer to the strike, you can grab the 126.7s as well. So yeah, that's that. Hold up, let me go back to the list. I know we got set your alerts, big dog. Oh, I mean, if he napping hard, he probably not gonna hear them alerts though. But I feel you, Rodney. Um, I tell you, man, that stuff, it's that stuff French toast, man. Knock you right out. Okay, Uber. Javar wanted to look at Uber. I'm gonna come back to COP, Sal, but let me let me knock out y'all list real quick. Uber. Yeah, so what you're seeing equal highs on the, yeah, put side, right? So equal highs on the weekly. And this is probably not probably, but more than likely is the result of that run up from it being added to, what was it being added to? S&P 500, I believe. There was some news about, I wasn't really paying attention to Uber, but I think there was some news about it being added to, I think it's the S&P 500. Let's see, was it here? And more news real quick. I think that's what it was, right? So Uber had its, amazing run up, right? But you look at it on a 6 month, what's that? Equal highs right there. Same thing, 3 months as well too, and then even on the weekly, you're seeing equal highs. So lot of room for it to come back to the downside for sure. Let's zoom in on the weekly real quick. Now, keep in mind, I don't think this is a reversal, um, but definitely some room for it to drop. Let's see, flip right here, change that to that. Yeah, we're not even at equilibrium yet, and so price is still at a premium, right? So could potentially drop, especially depending on how you swing in it. It could drop all the way down back into the 50s. But what we have is a 2-2. Actually, we have a 1-2-2 rev strat, right? 8 through that fair value gap. Where is it in this one? Oh, my bad. Close that. Boom, and boom. Right. So, okay, so didn't quite do that. Bounced out of the first fair value gap for now. But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure which contract you're looking at, but yeah, this probably could be in, I hate to say it, a layup. Um, it's really just going to be about giving yourself time. honestly. Daily, and actually with it today, this may actually end up being an order block. Pay attention to what happens tomorrow. If we get displacement to the downside, this is going to be a bearish order block. And so yeah, it'll I would say if it turns into a bearish order block, basically wait for price to do kind of something like this, boom, back up into it, and then gone. You could probably target, depending on how much time, like what time you're trying to give it. Uh, I would probably target the 55 put, and give it time, maybe 55 put for January 19th. Probably not too expensive. Uber, if I recall, is not that expensive of a. Yeah, so um, couple different strike prices on January 19th that the market likes. 57.5 for short. So if you want to get closer to the strike, obviously that's fine, right? And it's still cheap. It's 113 bucks per contract. So you could probably, depending on your port size, grab a couple, maybe three, maybe five, depending on your port size. If you're feeling a little froggy though, you can probably grab the 55 put. That one's only asking 41. Um, Open interest is a little bit under 8,500, and the volume's just, excuse me, the volume's just under 1,000. So, um, yeah, so I would say just if it triggers and displaces to the downside, yeah, that's your bearish order block, and yeah, have at it. And again, just give yourself time. Make sure you have your targets marked out to the downside. Let me close this real quick. Uh, I mean, obviously, all of these lows here are targets, but I would say probably focus on that low and that low. If it takes out the 55, especially before the week is over, well, shit, especially before next week is over, if you have runners, take your bag and yeah, let the runners do their thing. Especially if price drops below 53.76, it'll be a pretty decent swing for sure. Let's see something. Boom, boom. Yeah, so if price comes back up to there, and then you notice at the halfway point of that candle, of that bearish order block that is struggling, and then it starts to flip and reverse. Yeah, take it by all means, take it. That'll be uh that'll be stuff French toast territory. Yeah, it got added to the S&P. All right, cool. AVGO 1000 put for 119 is 2.7, only cost 525. Um, yeah, that's true. You could do AVGO for, I just didn't, yeah, I didn't know, because I know some people got smaller accounts. So I want them to, use their entire portfolio for that. But if you can afford that contract, hell yeah, take it. By all means, go ahead and do your thing. All right, well, what else? We had Netflix, right? Was that the other one? Yep, Netflix. So is it finally doing what I think it's gonna do? Yeah, about goddamn time. 3 day, 4 day, and then change that back to the weekly. Change that back to the weekly. All right, so 331. All right. So with Netflix, full time frame continuity is currently bearish, but the day is bullish. So we're looking, we definitely like when that happens. If and I know that these are all coupled together, right? I do want to make sure you understand that these are all coupled together, the week, the month, the quarter, and also the year, because we are still in the first week of the year, we are still in the first month of the year, we're still in the first quarter of the year, and obviously the year. So you want to be aware of that, that they are still all coupled together. However, with that being said, couple different ways that this week can go, right? If the daily continues pushing lower, then you've got your 2-1-2 reversal to the downside. However, it should be mentioned that it completely filled the fair value gap, the first fair value gap, and bounced off of it, right? So technically we're still making a higher low. That's an argument to the bullish side, just throwing that out there. All right. Um, actually 453.47. All right, cool. Let's go into the daily real quick. As far as the daily, we do have an actionable signal. I do like this to continue heading down, especially considering that it traded up. Actually, no, that actually created the fair value gap. So what I would say is look for price tomorrow. If it continues pushing up, if it rejects off of the fair value gap and you start to see it kind of getting weak and failing, then you can go ahead and take that. If you're going to use a strat entry, you would enter here. Oh, but yeah, there we go. Like my magnet should be on. You would enter at 465, 77. So your targets to the downside, 461 to 86. You do have some fair value gaps. Actually, they're kind of small. So when with Netflix's ATR, it might just true through that whole thing. So that will leave targets here and here and here, right? Um, Now, obviously, tomorrow, I'm sorry, this week, it moves $10 a day. So you could potentially get down to, I would say at the very least 460. I probably wouldn't be going after the 450s for this week. If you're looking at the 450s, I probably look at that for next week. Or depending on how expensive it is, Netflix. Not too bad. 340 bucks. So depending on your pork, then that's what you do. Now, if it reverses to the upside, right, there's a couple things that you got to pay attention to. Equilibrium of the fair value gap above 478.49. And then your next target is going to be up here at 484. So if it does trigger, this would be your trigger, which would be 475. I'd probably say look at the 480s. And because it's so close in proximity, I would say look at it for this week. That would be your lotto for this week. And if it pushes all the way up back up to 484, 65, then yeah, even better. Turns out to be a pretty nice swing. Now, right now, market's showing bearishness. I think XLC in general is as well too. Oh, hold on. My laptop was not plugged in my bag. That's why. Give me juice. There we go. Okay. Yeah, XLC, the sector is showing potential willingness to go bearish, right? We did go two up, but definitely you see the exhaustion and the bearishness. Also looking at same thing on the week as well too, right? So we got the 2-2 reversal on the week to the downside. So yeah, it looks like we're about to flip to the downside, and then also looking at the quarter so far, we've made lower highs. So yeah, with XLC looking bearish, I would say I would probably lean my bias towards bearishness on Netflix. But again, it's Netflix, so you always want to just be prepared for both sides, have a game plan for both sides, deciding whichever way it wants to go, you'll have a plan for either side. All right. What else did we get? What else? What else? What else? Robin Hood. I've been seeing that ticker like thrown around a lot. I think because I genuinely like I use Robin Hood, but I don't like them. So, um, I mean, first thing I noticed is a consolidation on the month, right? We did take out highs and then we also took out lows, so maybe we're ready to push back up to keep to take out highs up here. Um, and honestly, looking at Hood is Robin RH. Oh shit, you are right. You are right. Restoration Hardware. My apologies. You are absolutely right. Hood is Robin Hood. My bad. Embarrassing moment. Thank you, Roseanne, for the correction. You are awesome. So in that case, I do like this ticker. So yeah, with the pullback that we're seeing on the weekly, I think this actually could be set up for some pretty decent longs. I really got to chart this one out though. Let me see. You put right. It could be set up for some pretty decent longs, but you do want to be aware that full time frame continuity is bearish, so you would be going against the trend. Let me see, where are we at right now? Oh yeah, so we're probably going to continue with some bearishness then. Let's see something. It's your order block. Yeah, we're sitting right on the equilibrium of the order block, the bullish order block right here. So Um, honestly, an argument can be made for either side. Depends on what happens going forward. If you see it bounce off, because this is the equilibrium of the bullish order block, right? If you see it bounce off of that, then yeah, this could be a nice setup for a long-term swing. There we go. For a long-term swing, because since we pivoted over here, we have been doing that, just making higher lows. So let me look at some of the other time frames. And actually, it's setting up. It did set up a PMG setup to the upside. Yeah, these are all two downs. Yep. So since this inside candle just created nothing but two downs, so that's a PMG setup to the upside. A lot of targets to take out then. Um, Obviously, I wouldn't say like enter like calls immediately tomorrow or anything like that, but if you start to see that it's turning, yeah, definitely look at it long-term swings. Now, if it continues to the downside on the daily, that would be your next target. Um, and actually, I would probably even say target the end of the fair value gap. It may even come down, right? Especially if we end up bearish tomorrow, it can come down and just close out the fair value gap before continuing pushing up. So really just pay attention to how price is moving. If price is moving to the downside, that's a really high ATR. So you could probably look at either the 260s for the end of this week, or if you're feeling froggy, you could probably do the 255. And this low is actually the beginning of a fair value gap, a small one, but still as well too. So I'd probably say to the downside, either 260 or 255. If it starts reversing to the upside, I probably wouldn't play it for this week, but just see how it moves, and you could probably set up a swing for the next couple of weeks or potentially a month out, depending on how expensive it is. Night, Rodney. So the actually, let me just do it like this. Probably best to do it like that. Get rid of, get rid of, get rid of, get rid of, and get rid of. All right, so a bearish order block is the last up candle before you get displacement to the downside, right? So in this case, answering your question, I think it's King Lucy, if I pronounce it correctly. That's a bearish order block, right? We have an up candle and then we get displacement to the downside. I'm hesitant to teach it because, like, if you haven't listened to any of the ICT videos, I'm going to use terminology that you may not know. But essentially, you get the setup, you get the bullish candle, making people think that it's probably going to continue. It doesn't. We get displacement to the downside, basically taking out the low of this bullish candle. That's what makes it an order block because there are sell orders that were placed during the time frame of this candle. So what usually happens with order blocks is you get the displacement and then usually the retest, like this candle did, before displacing further down. That is a bearish order block. Bullish order block is the same, except, in reverse, right? So over here, bullish order block, right? It's a down candle or bearish candle. And then you get displacement like you have with this candle, right? Then it comes back, retests with that candle right here, and also this candle below this candle before displacing further upwards. Does that help at least? If not, I mean, I can find the actually in the 2016 mentorship month 4, although I do recommend you start from the beginning, but there is a order blocks video there for that one. All right. Okay. So somebody had mentioned Mickey D's. Reason why I am looking at Mickey D's. Let's look at it real quick. There's two I'm really looking at as a lotto for either this week or potentially going into next week. Or honestly, McDonald's, I kind of actually want to get a January 19th one for that one. So let's take a look. Come in here. Okay. So the first thing I notice is the equal highs over here, right? And then price action could not get up over that. We now currently have a shooter. I know the month's just begun, but we have currently a shooter forming on the monthly. And also we have it forming on the weekly as well too. So same area, equal highs. I have it marked out with a white line. Couldn't get past the equal highs. And then we have a lower high here after the run up. So we, try to get past this point once, 2, 3, 4 times, failed. Same time over here. Couldn't touch the same levels and started to fail. And if you pay attention to what happened last time it failed, we had a major drop. So all this is a liquidity void. So, a lot of fair value gaps along the way that need to be taken care of. Couple other things actually, let me get rid of that. So because we have the shooter, what I do is, like, when I see the fair value gaps, I mark out the equilibrium points of where we can get a bounce or a potential support. From a strat perspective, we're looking for this to continue pushing down. We're looking for it to stay as a shooter. Then heading into next week, more than likely our target will be 290, 287, 285 on the weekly. What I did is I drew out, actually, because this candle's not done yet, so no point in drawing the equilibrium on the fair value gap just yet. All right. But shooter after the equal highs, also We do have a potential setup for mitigation block, but obviously that's a ways off. We would need that, we would need the price action to actually come down and take out the 245 73 in order for that to turn into a mitigation block. So that's a ways off. But I like it because there's a setup for a short term. There's setup potentially for a long term, especially if we continue bearish in the market. Um, Looking at the daily, we also have a PMG setup to the downside after going double outside on the daily. We have a PMG setup to the downside, right? What that is where every single high, five or more candles, where the high of each candle is higher than that of the previous range. And yeah, so potential areas where, price action could bounce would be at 291.72. We could, depending on how bearish we are, we could flush straight through that. But this is the reason why I'm looking at the 290. If we touch 290, 291.72, the next target is going to be 290.89. I mean, technically, you can mark out these targets as well too, but with the way MCD moves and its ATR, it can probably eat through that. Obviously not in one day, but it could. So we're at 294.39. There's room to the downside. What used to be resistance over here could act as support on 291.72. So I'm looking at the 290 put for January 19th. It's not too expensive. Can probably grab multiple contracts to that. Yes, I know that's a swing, but if you wanted to, technically, because of its ATR, if you wanted to grab the 290 for this week, you could treat it as a lotto as well too. It is only $26. Spreads, well, $9 difference, so spreads aren't too bad, too bad. Or if you want to stay close to the strike, you can grab the 292.5 puts and yeah, go from there. All right. What I would probably say is like, the fair value gap is just below at 294. So ideally what we would want to happen is for maybe if it triggers down, let it hit the fair value gap, see if it bounces off of that. Let me forgot to do this part. That's a ways off, but if it comes back up to 296 or anywhere in that area, you can, and you see it coming back down, you could probably go, but obviously I would definitely not do something for that week at 296. I'll probably do something for next week or the January 19th. If it triggers and just eats straight through it, then yeah, go ahead, do your thing. It could, especially if the rest of the market is completely bearish, it could just bite through all of that and just keep continuing heading down. A lot of liquidity to eat through here. Yeah, so that's why I like MCD. I don't know who else said that they were looking at it, but that's what I'm looking at and that's what I'm targeting. Can I explain fear? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go ahead and just drop the video. I'm gonna go ahead and drop the video, but um, you have to think of fair value gaps as imbalances, either to the buy or to the sell side, right? So I got the same thing though. All right, cool. So we're on the same page, Taria. All right. So with fair value gaps, like for example, this is a bullish fair value gap. It's actually a structure breaking fair value gap because we were heading down here and then, this candle displaces and then keeps pushing up. So that's the structure breaking because it broke the downside and it bullish breaking structure to the upside. But fair value gaps are imbalances to the buy side or to the sell side, and they usually get balanced out eventually. Case in point, bullish fair value gap here, bearish, right? Covered it on the other side, right? So with fair value gaps, there's a couple different ways that you can play them. Sometimes the fair value gap gets completely filled before bouncing and heading up. Sometimes, this happens, it just eats right through it. Sometimes price will go through the equilibrium and bounce off of that. And I don't really have an example to show you. Maybe here. Hold on, let me see. Did it do it here? Not really, but kind of. Um, so yeah, but in its simplest terms, fair value get actually, hold up. Somebody had asked that question in the group earlier. Give me 1 second. Let me find it, and then I'm gonna just tag you. I think that was Matt asking the question, so I'm gonna just tag you in it because I answered it there. No, it was Strat, unless you're Strat Mex, but Strat Mex had said something, and I had put, just give me 1 second. Discord. Open. No, 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 not in this chat. Not in this Zoom chat. I'm talking about in the Discord. Where is it? I think it was in the beginner, or was it in Zamunda Circle Traders? Zamunda Circle Traders. Where is it? Right. Um, so StratMax put in that as I watched the video about imbalance, there are four different types of imbalances: price gap, volume imbalance, price spikes, lack of liquidity, displacement imbalances, and unhealthy, unfair price action showing disequilibrium between buyers and sellers. Long story short, it's an imbalance between buying or to the sell side. Volume imbalances, that's where you'll see, that's where you'll see that those fair value gaps, right? um, a fair value gap is a volume imbalance to either the buy side or to the sell side, right? So it's really important. Um, Sorry, no, fair value gap's not imbalance. Fair value gap is just an imbalance because of the volume imbalance. It's actually, let me just tag you here. See, and this is why at Matt there. And then my response is just right below that, right? So, um, but basically, I'm new money miss. Oh, because it said Matt in the iPhone. My bad. I my bad. Hold on. Let me take. I tagged the wrong person. My apologies. Let me go change that right now. There you go. Sorry about that. Yeah, I saw the word Matt, and there's actually somebody in the Discord who just has their name as Matt, right? So my bad. But long story short, just a fair value gap is um it's popular, especially with the ICT traders because there's different ways that you can trade it. It occurs, long story short, it just occurs where there's inefficiencies um, or imbalances in the market, right? Either to the buyer or to the sell side if it's not equal. And usually what is imbalanced must balance itself out eventually. So fair value gaps eventually get filled. They're no different. It's the same concept as with gap fills as well too, right? How they eventually get filled. So think about it kind of like that, right? Now, if you want to go deeper into fair value gaps, you got to watch the ICT. Got to watch them. Like I have a pretty good working understanding of it, but I'm still gonna continue watching videos on it because there's many different ways that they get played, and apparently there's such a thing called an inversion fair value gap, which I just learned about yesterday. So yeah, you're gonna definitely go down the rabbit hole with this one. All right. Um, right. So that's McDonald's. The other one, which honestly, like the rest of the market was bearish, but this shit was bullish. Like it actually, in my opinion, has a bullish setup to it. XLC is also looking bearish to me, but this shit actually has a bullish setup to it. So yeah, Google is definitely something to put on your radar. Had its pullback, it pulled back to on the higher time frames, pulled back to a fair. Oh shit, wrong. My bad. 1 second. Let me change that. There we go. Let me go here real quick. Open that up. All right. So on the month, right? It's inside, but obviously we're still bullish on the month, just starting. I think earnings is at the end of January, February 1st. So what we could potentially see is maybe an earnings run up, um, during the month of January, right? We are still making higher lows, we're still making higher highs as well too, and buy side liquidity is, external buy side liquidity is up here at 152.10. So definitely some room for it to run. It did already clear this, but obviously it pulled back in. But if we continue pushing higher, let's see, where's that? That makes sense, right? Because we had the double top here, so it makes sense why we pulled back there. So what you could be seeing is just a pullback and then potentially gathering up to, move up the next leg. On the weekly, what are we seeing on the weekly, right? I drew there we go. So again, with fair value gaps, what I've learned to do is to draw the fibs, the 0.5, the equilibrium, right? So you see that price action kind of, just barely got there, right? Barely touched it, not quite touched it, but just hovered right above it. Buyers definitely stepped in, started pushing back up. So the week, could potentially, especially if we continue pushing up into Thursday and Friday, we could end up with this thing as a hammer on the week, right? And again, just because it's at the top of the range doesn't mean that you still don't have space, right? That's the top of your broad information, but you still got space for it to move up to about 144, 145 ish for Google. It also, let me see, look at it. Yeah, see, bounced off the same areas. And then also when you look at on the daily, what did the daily just bounce off of yesterday, right? There's your fair value gap, didn't even enter it, just immediately bounced off of it. The structure breaking fair value gap. And now we go to reversal. The only thing I would say that happened is that the market, yeah, see, so the high got to the equilibrium of this fair value gap. Actually, no, sorry, that's the order block. My apologies. Fair value gap is small. It's probably gonna eat through that shit, and it did. Yeah, so I wouldn't even worry about that one too much. I'd probably say your next targets are gonna be up here, 141, 44, 142.27. So you could probably treat this like a lotto, right? It moves 269. FTC is bullish as well too, right? So if this triggers to the upside, um, where's your entry? Your entry is going to be here at 141.09. So if it triggers to the upside, I'll probably say grab the 142. Let me look at the contracts real quick. Yeah, 142, decent volume, decent open interest, and it's cheap. $46 a contract. You could probably grab multiple cons off of that. And yeah, this is actually, I forgot to say, this is actually over here, a PMG setup to the downside. So what we could see is this pivot, it continue moving up to take up these targets back to the upside, potentially to take the month up, right? Before ultimately exhausting and probably coming back through the range. But yeah, market was down, but Google said F the market. Said fuck that. We still gonna stay bullish for sure. Um, Lily actually didn't it already like take off? Let me see. Oh yeah, that shit really took off. I think Salah actually called this one out, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it took the month up. Um, all this shit is old. That is funny. Worked out per wow. Holy shit. That worked out. Um, it could. It could. I mean, healthcare right now is definitely killing it. That is really cool. This is the reason why I say like chart, even if you have no intention of trading it. I had drawn this theory out a long time ago, and obviously a couple candles off, but it eventually did the right thing, right? We still have the accumulation. The manipulation is actually down here, and here is your distribution to the upside. I mean, definitely reaffirming, especially when you're learning a new strategy. It's reaffirming to see like, and this is again, I had no intention of trading Lily whatsoever, but it's really cool to see that. Yeah, so it did take out the first target. Um, the up here is internal liquidity, so sell side liquidity. So it could pull back, but it, full time frame continuity is bullish. So what we've learned is that sometimes it may, jump over to take out the external liquidity. So that's a push all the way up to, between 625, 629 and higher. Um, I don't really play Lily like that. That's probably a Sal question, but with this ATR, I mean, 630s are definitely probably in play. Hold up. You may find some resistance though, right? Because when you look at the body of the candle, right? Forget the wicks for a second, right? Um, Opened here, closed here, wick there. Like, yeah, so this 618 level is pretty strong. Ah, okay, I see you. Yeah, I mean, if it drops, uh, probably pay attention to the halfway mark. If it drops down to like 610 and you start to see it reverse and head up, then yeah, I'd probably say you could probably jump in on something there, for sure. So it could continue though, like honestly, it really could. I'm not saying like it's a given, but it could definitely continue. I mean, because what it looks like, yeah, it looks like basically what SPY and what the Qs were doing, basically going to attack the all-time highs before. I imagine that's exactly what the algos are probably doing too. They're probably going to attack the all-time highs, the 630, and that's probably where you're going to see your sell orders. Same thing, it's no different than what we saw with ABGO, right? ABGO took out the highs, and yeah, now you got your sell orders, and boom, all-time highs. So yeah, Lily's probably going to hit all-time highs um before like the real drop. Just saying. All right. That's it for me, yo. Uh, if there's nothing else, I'm gonna say good night. I'll drop the recording in. Um, for those of you following the compound, I'm not gonna put out an analysis tonight, but if I see a good enough setup, then I will alert y'all. And we'll go from there. And yeah, just make sure that you are studying up. Make sure you're doing your chart and your 1 to 3 tickers a day. Even if you have no intention of trading it, make sure you are reading your books on the psychology to help dealing with your trading psychology as well too. Um, Oil, if you don't take any of the tickers that we talked about, oil, XLE is a sector to pay attention to, for sure. There's a lot of, I mean, even if you look in like on FinTwit, a lot of people are talking about different oil tickers. You don't have to necessarily take CVX, but there's definitely others out there. MRO is a good small account friendly workhorse as well too. Even though we didn't chart it, but yeah. All right, Joe. Talk to y'all tomorrow.